Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Anna Guthrie. I'm program manager for Seattle Parks Foundation. I have worked with some of the emergency hubs, and we have one in my community as well. So thank you for all the work that
Nice.
you do. We really appreciate it, and all the work that you do in your local communities. So, as Anne mentioned, I'm here to tell you a little bit about Seattle Parks Foundation and how we work with emergency hubs and some opportunities. This is can act as a reminder for some of you who are already community partners with Seattle Parks Foundation of some resources that are available to you, and for those of you who are not, and after this, who might want to be, you can let me know and be in touch. So, as I mentioned, my name is Anna Guthrie. I'm the program manager for Seattle Parks Foundation, and SPF is a fiscal sponsor. So, this means that we support community-led projects that are in parks and open spaces that have a focus on equity, health, climate, and community. My role, among many things, is that I provide direct support to community partners, including, like I mentioned, many of the local emergency hubs. So I'm here to talk to you today about some of the services we offer to our fiscal sponsors, or our fiscal partners, sorry. I'm going to focus on the part that is in that little highlighted green area mostly today. Fiscal sponsorship provides a lot of benefits. One major benefit, and a reason that many of the emergency hubs have come to us, is that we offer a tax exempt status so that groups can receive grants and also so that they can receive donations with that tax exempt status. So you can receive tax exempt donations as well. I'm going to go into more detail about collecting donations and fundraising in a minute, but down with the at the bottom of my green highlighted area, you can see a point that says grant application review, administration, and record keeping. So this is how a lot of the emergency hubs have come to us so far, is that they get a Department of Neighborhoods grant or DON grant. So some of you might be familiar with that. Many have applied for the Small Sparks grant in particular. So we help to manage the grant, providing the necessary insurance that groups need to receive the grant and administrative support. This includes some grant claims review, making payments, either reimbursements to the usually the local or the lead of the emergency hub who has purchased items, or directly to vendors if that's needed as well. I also provide extra support like tutorials and working in the DON portal, which can have a little bit of a learning curve. The cost for all of these benefits, plus more, is 10% of whatever money comes into Seattle Parks Foundation. So that's 10% of the total grant or 10% of donations that come in. Is there anything you want to add about that, Anne, about the services that we offer that have been particularly helpful for emergency hubs groups?
No, I think you covered it, and I'm glad you mentioned insurance because that throws a lot of our new hub captains about how to get insurance.
Yes, great. I've mentioned community partners. Community partners are the groups that we fiscally sponsor. As I mentioned, they're community-led groups. So when your project joins SPF, you're called a community partner. So if I'm using that language today, that's what I'm referring to. Um, and I mentioned I'm going to talk more about fundraising and collecting donations. So this is what our website looks like if people are there to look at community partners. You can see our section that button that says Explore Our Partners Projects. That's what this will look like. When you scroll down, you can see all of the projects. We have, I think, around 140 community partners right now with Seattle Parks Foundation, and you can see almost all of them listed on our website. You can see in the green there, we have Madison Valley Emergency Communication Hub, so they have their own web page on our website, and that looks something like this. So we work together with a partner to set up a web page. It has information about your like a project description, that main photo at the top and some scrolling photos at the bottom, as well as links to your website, your social media, your contact information, if you have all of that, any of that established already. So just want to point out you can't, if you do have a website already, some people get nervous, like, do I have to get rid of that and keep, or just have the one on Seattle Parks Foundation? But you can keep your own website and we can link to it. We're happy to link to anything. But the important thing that I want to highlight here is that donate now that I've circled. So this takes you to a donation page. We can collect online donations for you and it goes directly to your project. So you have kind of like a bank account within Seattle Parks Foundation. We can collect different types of online donations. You can see the one-time option. People can either write in their own amount or have a pre-selected amount, or a monthly donation if people want to set up a regular monthly donation. You can see this question and the frequently asked questions there. Is this donation tax deductible? And it is. So when someone makes an online donation to your group, we automatically send that receipt to them. And also our finance team calls them and thanks them for their donation on your behalf. And you get a donation report once a month that tells you everyone who has donated and the amount in case you want to do any follow-up and also thank folks.
So Madison Valley did a grant. Is the website and this link to donate only active during the period of the grant, or does it last on after the grant is closed out with DOM?
Great question. So that's up to the individual partner. So far, from what I've heard, Madison Valley Emergency Hub has decided to stay on with us as a
Yeah.
partner. So then we just leave it up.
Wouldn't they?
So as long as a group thinks that they might apply for another grant in the future, or they're interested in potentially collecting some donations, they can stay on with us as a
Okay.
partner.
But if we have a hub that hasn't gotten to that grants, like they're going to apply for one in 6 months,
Mhm.
they can't be on your website yet then, right?
Typically, people or groups come to us when they have funding, like a grant, or they're ready to actively fundraise and they
Okay.
need a place to collect donations.
Okay, so they
So,
could do that before they got all the way through the grant process. And what I'm thinking is, let's say they got denied in one cycle for a grant, they could still use you because you'll still collect your 10% while they, resubmit and get back into the cycle.
yeah, if they want to fundraise or do any sort of fundraising before getting the DON grant, yeah, they can come to us for
Fantastic.
sure. Yeah. One other way that this donation page can be really helpful for partners is Seattle Parks Foundation can help you to create a QR code that you can print out and you can have on posters or at your events on your table, where people can scan that and donate. When they scan that QR code, it will bring them directly to your donation
Mhm.
page. They can do it all from their cell phone. So that's another way that partners have used this donation page really effectively. I just wanted to go back for a moment to their Madison Valley's webpage on our website and highlight again that you can have your own website. So where I've highlighted in green, if you click on any of those places, it takes the person directly to their own website. And you can see that they have click here to donate to support our hub. That will bring people directly to their donation page, back to this page when they click there. So our staff will help you. If you already have a website that you want to keep up, we'll help talk you through how to link and get things moving so that they can work together well. And in my mind, like the more ways you have your name out there to help people learn about you and potentially donate, the better. So we want to work with you to set that up.
Hey, Anna, I want to
Yep.
call out the frequently asked questions. I thought those were
Okay.
fabulous.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what I would ask. How
Yeah.
can I mail? How do I know that my money's going straight to that hub and not some other hub? And
Mhm.
then other ways to give. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Genius.
that helps answer questions of people who come to your webpage or to your donation page, sorry, and these are questions that are asked a lot. They can click on that and get the drop down there. Okay, I wanted to also highlight some other ways and other resources that we can help you collect donations. So I've already highlighted the give online or make a monthly donation. With those options, those online options, the benefit is that it's very easy for people to access. They can find you, you can use it at an event and it does go straight to your account within Seattle Parks Foundation. Very, very easy. Because we have it hosted on a platform, there are a few extra fees in addition to the 10% that Seattle Parks Foundation takes. They're pretty low and they do tell the donor what those fees are because it's kind of complicated and they're set by GoFundMe Pro. And it changes depending on what credit card they use, for example, like MasterCard versus Visa, things like that. But it tells the donor how much those fees are. The donor can choose to cover those fees, or if not, it is taken off right away. But just wanted you to be aware of that with the online giving. There is some fees that are outside of Seattle Parks Foundation that we don't control. A way to get around that is if you have someone giving a larger donation, maybe, or want to give a regular donation but don't want those fees, you can also mail a check. So we can always receive a check on behalf of your project. People just need to write that in the memo line so that we know where it's going. Also, a very easy way to do it. And another one that I wanted to highlight that some people don't know about is this employer matching benefit. Many of you have a lot of volunteers that are working with you or that might be aware of this but not think of applying it to you. So we can receive donations from matching platforms. A really big one is Benevity. Another one is America's Best Local Charities. But some of these big companies in Seattle Parks Foundation, like Microsoft and Amazon and Google, where you might have volunteers who work in these businesses, they match either donations that are given, like dollar amounts that are given by their employees, or time given that they're volunteering, and they assign a dollar amount to that. So if your volunteers report that to their company through Benevity or whatever they're using, they can say I volunteered for 15 hours, and then you would get a check from Microsoft, usually quarterly, for those 15 hours that your volunteer reported. So it's a really nice way to get some extra money, or like a dollar cash match as well, if they donated money to just boost what they're already doing. And all they need to do is report it to their company. But they don't know to do that if they don't know you can receive it. So that's a really big benefit that you can let people know about as well if you are a Seattle Parks Foundation partner. And the last thing I want to highlight, and I thought this might be useful to emergency hubs, is we can help you set up a campaign. This is an example of a campaign from another partner, not an emergency hub. But if you're donate or raising money for something specific, like maybe you need to upgrade some of your gear, buy new gear, you're buying a new box or something like that. And for some reason, you don't have grant funding for it, or you need a little extra more than the grant provides, we can help you set up a campaign like this. And you can see at the top, there's like the goal, how many days your campaign is going to run. And you can break it up to show like $50 would buy this for our emergency hub. $100 would buy this for your emergency hub. It really helps people connect with what they're donating to and help them like envision that more, which we've had a lot of success with. So those are kind of the different ways that we can help you collect money, is just an overview. So if you are already a fiscal partner with Seattle Parks Foundation and I'm your project liaison, and you want to learn about any of these in more detail, please reach out and let me know. I'm happy to talk to you about it. Mark, I see you have a question.
Yeah, yeah. On the previous page, I saw a donor advice fund was one of the ways to give.
Yes.
If someone triggers through their donor advice fund, will it get directed to the specific community partner?
Yes, they can direct it to the community partner. And there's some other ways that you can give as well that you can look on our website. This is just what I could fit into my snapshot and what I thought I would have time to talk about. But there are more ways you can see through stock. There's lots of different ways. But yes, they can always direct any donation directly to the project, directly to the partner, and that can be specified.
Anna, is there anything that can't be purchased with donated funds?
Great question. So that's what I was about to get to. There are some benefits to fundraising instead of going through a grant. With a grant, it's very specific, especially with the Department of Neighborhoods, what you can purchase and how you have to report that. With fundraised money, you have a lot more flexibility. Anything like an unexpected expense that may come up outside of your grant, you can use your fundraised money for. There's a lot more flexibility. As long as it is something that is going to support your project, you can use your fundraised money for purchasing those items. People use it for, even for like food for a gathering or anything. You just have a lot more flexibility, which I think is the main benefit to fundraising alongside getting grants.
Nice.
So it would just
And
be
this,
up to your hub group board, whatever, to to determine if it's appropriate? There's no tax implications.
I mean, you will have to provide to Seattle Parks Foundation like itemized receipts, things like that, and like a reasonable reason for purchasing that. So like that is our responsibility as a fiscal sponsor to make sure that that is in line with the scope of your project. If we have questions, we might ask for clarification. There's only been a couple times when that's happened, and it's been like major red flags that we're like, this is definitely not being used appropriately. So for the most part, as long as, you know, like you have your itemized receipt for Costco and you're like, this food was used as at a training. Great.
You mean
So
my
yeah.
pontoon party boat idea for shoreline isn't going to work, huh?
Maybe.
Wait, I do have a
Yeah.
question. I completely understand the box and when we work with DON. I have a situation coming up at my hub where we have our box, all our gear is stable. We're doing a project with our school where we are thinking of creating signage so that in a school shooting event, you know, where we have a neighborhood team who might do assistance to create signage to put up so that our small streets become one-way circuits. So
Mhm.
I'm in a park, but we're doing it joint with the school, but I could come to you and do a fundraising campaign for that, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Rachel, I
Um,
think I saw.
yeah, so I know it's related to parks, and I guess I'm wondering, since a lot of the emergency hubs are in a park, is that sort of where that junction comes in, or could you partner with somebody who might not be like storing a box in your park?
Yeah, we can be open. So we are pretty like we did so Seattle Parks Foundation used to be just parks. And that is part of why we expanded our definition a little bit to parks and open spaces. I just want to clarify we're separate from Seattle Parks and Recreation. So we're very separate things. So we're just the fiscal sponsor with
Yeah.
the grant and the fundraising. So we can't grant permission for your box
Yeah.
to be somewhere. Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also want to acknowledge you, Anna, because you in your newsletter that came out, you listed several of the hubs as part of your new community partners, and that was very
Yeah.
cool to see.
Yeah, that's right. That just came out. And yeah, we have had
Hey,
several
people read that.
hubs join us this year. Yeah, it's a great way to get your name out. And we're always happy to have more hubs come to us. Like I said, we think you're doing really, really important and great work. So, especially me, because I'm the one who works with you all. So, are there any other questions? Or, Anne, is there anything that you think I missed or would be helpful to highlight?
I did have a question about the tax deductible form.
Mhm.
You said that will get mailed out, plus your staff calls folks and says thank you.
Yes. So if
Okay.
they do an online donation, they automatically get that form. If they send a
Excellent.
check or something like that, they also get the tax deductible acknowledgement, that receipt. I'm not exactly sure how that is handled with our finance team. I know they do it. I don't know the details. I do know if it's online, it's automatic. And then it used to be that our finance team called donors over a certain dollar amount, but we've changed and we're like, any amount that people are giving is important. So they call every donor. Often it's a voicemail that they're leaving, but they do call every donor to thank them on your behalf. And as I said, you also get a donation report. So if you want to follow up with any donors, you can do that as well.
Nice. And then Anna, Bill put in the chat, how big is your staff at Seattle Parks Foundation?
It's not very big. I think we have 16 people right now. And we have 4 people who are project liaisons. So we're like the direct support for partners. I had my email address there. You can also find me on the website or you can ask Anne. I'm happy to talk with anybody who has any questions that come up. Again, if you're interested in becoming a partner or if you're already a partner and you're like, hey, Anna, can you review some of this with me? I'm really happy to do that.
Anna, thank you so much. I'm
Yeah, thank
excited
you.
about this.
Great. Thank you
Super,
so much
super
for
easy.
Yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible. We really want it to be as low barrier as possible for our partners and want you to, like grants are obviously really, really great, especially the Department of Neighborhoods grant. Really amazing. And we also I wanted you to know that there's some flexibility outside of grants. So we really want to help you serve your community the best that you can, and we're here to support you.
Today at the Office of Emergency Management Disaster Management Committee meeting, the DMC meeting, each of the departments gets up and does a briefing about how they're getting ready for the winter weather. Because of the hazards in Seattle, that's the one we can expect with the most regularity, even though it's not got as much impact as maybe an earthquake would have. So today we heard from four different committees. I'm going to show you three of the departments that we work with. Health and Human Services was not presenting. They often run the local shelters, so we may get that one at a future meeting. So I took, each of them had about a 15-page slide deck, and I condensed it down to the key points that help you, especially if you're a new hub person and haven't seen how we work to understand what the departments do to get ready for emergencies, to sort of see their broad mission, and then some of the specifics that they've gotten to for what this year's response is going to be. So it's kind of that intersection with, if there's a disaster, this is how the departments in generally respond, kind of at education. So the first person we heard from was from the National Weather Service and NOAA here in Seattle. And what they're always looking to see is whether or not it's going to be a La Nina or what kind of a year it's going to be in terms of impact in temperatures and participation. And so this year it's a La Nina, but it's considered to be a weak La Nina. And I'm not a tech geek on this, but generally wetter than average and generally cooler than average, but it's a weak year. And so it's going to be the wetter and cooler will be earlier in the year, probably November, December, January, and not drag on all the way up through March and April. So that's kind of what everybody's preparing for, so that they're not, if it was a bad year, they'd be stocking up on the snowplow supplies and stuff like that. So everybody takes guidance about what the, you know, predictability is. I put this in the slide deck so you can read it later, but really they cover what is that going to do to our snowpack, and what's, we all worry about where we are with drought. What's the flooding potential? What's the snow and ice going to look like? And then there's a coastal issue that, they just deal with because they're a state agency. So all of it is signals are weak. It's not going to be an exceptionally extreme year. So then we moved into the SDOT plan. Their functionality in snow is very much like their emergency earthquake debris removing plan. So when I show you the routes that they have, those green gold routes are the same ones that are on our maps that we distribute to the hubs, because that's how they're going to clear the roads after a disaster, as well as the snowstorm. I put this in because everybody talked about what their missions and priorities are. And so for SDOT, it's really around getting transportation restored to the public and supporting the schools so that they can reopen the schools and get kids to and from as fast as possible. And new this year, they make a big deal about removing snow from curb ramps so that people with access and functional needs can have equitable access to get around the city. And for the first year, we've heard about them clearing bike facilities. And I don't think I captured a picture, but they have these new little machines that look like a baby snowplow that fit within a bike lane. And they can use those to clear the bike lanes they've put across. And the big emphasis we'll see coming up is about sidewalks. For the new hubs, there are 4 locations that SDOT has where they station their operations responses out of. 2 are in the center of the city. Charles Street is just south of the International District. Sunny Jim is further down south. It used to be a factory down in the Sodo area making peanut butter. And so those are their 2 operation bases in the core of the city. They have an operation base out in West Seattle and then one up north in Holler Lake. And each one of these organizations talked about how they start up days ahead of an event, getting their crews, making sure the staff is ready, that they've got their go bags ready, that the vehicles are, all ready to respond. So I didn't cover any of that. This is the map I was talking about that shows the green and gold. If it's gold, gold standard is to get to bare pavement on all lanes within 12 hours. And those are typically the 4-lane arterials. The emeralds are typically more like they may be a 4-lane arterial, but they're only going to take it down to bare pavement in 1 lane in each direction within 12 hours. And those are really focused around transportation into key critical infrastructures like hospitals. And then the schools factor into that too. They cannot get in to plow residential streets very well because the snowplow will scrape cars and some of our more narrow streets or just bury the cars. So what was the point of, plowing your street if you can't get out because you can't find your car anymore? And we didn't realize that there was such an impact with all the roundabouts that they put in the residential streets. Snowplows cannot get around those. So when the second from the bottom line says, when they say plow snow to the curb, that just means they just shove it over to the curb. So if your car is there, it's going to get buried. And the only place they don't do that and they push it away is at the transit stops. And then,
Stops.
pardon me, bus stops. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So public engagement goes from this last one is talking about in order to have functionality and mobility around the city, a lot of people walk, especially if you're walking to a bus stop or you live within work area or you're trying to get your kids to school. Those sidewalks are really important. So they have a whole series of talking points for getting ready for winter weather. Make sure you clean the gutters, try to get the storm drains clean, and you'll see that. And they do a lot of proactive advertising. So you as hub captains, often if we really see that there's going to be some really damaging snowstorm coming up, it's okay for you to take that and use that and amplify it in your newsletters and just remind people, just there could be a ice storm coming and that could take out power. So make sure you've got your flashlights charged up or whatever you want to do. So watch for this kind of stuff to come out because it is helpful information for you to be able to push out to people just because it is disaster preparedness.
Cindy, real quick.
Yeah, I see something going on in chat. What's up?
Yeah. Matt in chat said, it said after a lull. How long do they wait for a lull? I don't remember that piece.
They plow like 24 hours after a lull. But if there's like snow for like
They're
3 days
out.
straight, do they just
Yeah, no, what I think that means is they're out plowing when it's snowing. But once
Yeah,
the lull hits, they're going to try and get all the streets cleared within 12 hours of when the snow stops.
Oh, got it.
The other thing we learned is that gold isn't done before emerald. They are done at the same time.
Yeah, because West Seattle, you're just going to start south and go north, Generally, they would plow the hospital routes very first, right? And then work up from that.
And then Adrian had a question too.
Uh-huh.
So I know it's not SDOT, but did they talk about light rail at all and how that will function in a snowstorm?
They actually did not talk light rail.
Not
It was just
today.
our city,
Yeah.
Okay, just curious because
Yeah. Several years ago, like pre-COVID even, Department of Neighborhood started reaching out to the hubs saying, hey, can you help us get this message out about clearing sidewalks? And we're kind of like, well, I guess so. So, it just makes it into some of my talking points that I talk about for people. It's a neighborhood activity. We all have this responsibility to do it. It makes people feel good if they can go shovel the, senior citizens sidewalk next to them. So to me, it's one of those community building things that we can help amplify this message to help people move around during the snow. It's a disaster. Let's all help each other. And this was interesting that, there's 2,400 miles of sidewalks, that if they're lucky, SDOT will occasionally have manpower to be able to shovel around a school, but not generally at all. DON had created a pilot program 3 years ago where they were going to put boxes in neighborhoods that had snow shovels because not everybody wants to go out and buy a snow shovel. And so that was a pilot. And I guess, we've hit these kind of funding issues. So the funding went away for that. So they've dispersed those boxes, but we'll stay tuned and see if they're going to come back and do something creative like that again. So any questions on, I think that was it for SDOT. The next one is Seattle Public Utilities. I just, I'm just being lazy. They cover really, they think about it, they have three functions that they do for the city: water supply, wastewater, and our garbage. And so each one of the types of weather issues we have affects those three things differently. But he generally said, we're really looking at getting ready for wet weather, and then the freezing and snowing. And then a water resource management is really unique to like South Park and some of our shoreline areas where king tides and floods can be an effect. I didn't put so much of that in because they just had a big meeting in South Park to talk to that community to get ready for the potential king tides that they see coming up this year. But wet weather, so they're really trying to make sure people do the cleaning out of the inlets. They encourage people to adopt storm drains around them, just get those leaves off the top of it so that the water can go into the system it's supposed to go into, and doing kind of the messaging. And so if you ever actually open and read your bills, if you get them anymore, they put flyers in that talk a lot about, our ability to help reduce the impacts by simple actions. And the other big thing for new hubs is just knowing that there are sandbags available throughout the city, because we do have localized flooding areas that just persist because of the way the topography works. So people should know where their sandbags are. And in West Seattle, they've moved them. They used to be at the Delridge Community Center, and now they're at the pool area. So sandbags is really handy when people start talking, oh my God, it's flooding, know where your nearest distribution point is. And they don't seal out the water, but they can help redirect the bulk of the flow another way. So one thing that was new that they emphasized is that Seattle Public Utilities does have to respond to landslides. And so over here in the bottom right-hand side is the Hazard Explorer map of where we have landslide prone areas. And so how much of our city the landslide can wipe out pipes and some of our water distribution. So it was interesting to see that they have to stand by and be prepared to go out and assess what damage has been done to the wastewater infrastructure and also to the roads that the garbage trucks have to use.
And real quick, something they emphasize with the landslides, which I hadn't thought about, but landslides, they can either cause them, SPU can cause them because a pipe bursts and it washes all the dirt away and the landslide happens, or their pipes are busted during a more natural landslide. It just hadn't occurred to me that they're kind of screwed either way.
Two
Yeah,
ways to make your life miserable.
yeah.
Yeah. I like the poster, Seattle Snowmageddon. So they're all about the freezing, and they have to pay a lot of attention to what the temperatures are doing because they have to manage their water flows. If they've got an area that's got frozen pipes, they have to predict. I missed a little bit of it, but um, if they have breaks on smaller lines, they can really only turn those off for an hour or two to try and work on them. And then they have to just
Yeah.
cap it off and go on, because if they keep stuff blocked for much
Still,
longer,
yeah,
everything freezes.
yeah.
So they
They're
have,
really up against the clock.
yeah. So that was very interesting to hear. But all this is backed up by, the list of crews and the alphabet soup of them standing up in advance and looking at what's coming and getting their crews ready. And, these were the issues that drive them to take their specific actions. And then this is the last slide for them. This is about the solid waste. And with, they have to look at safety. This is where he's going. This is a 60-ton truck that's, I don't remember the weight, but it just slid down the road. They can't have that happen, or they start blocking roadways. They lose their capacity. And so they try and minimize how much collection schedule changes they have to do, based on if they can just make a 1 day delay and get it the next week, that's great. But they have had times where they've had to skip for an entire week for people. So just be prepared that they will notify you. And I did not copy down, all the websites that they've got where you can go to check and see what's going on with delivery or service in your area. But they do have a web, a blog, social media, and they will use Alert Seattle as for the more significant impacts. And then, so any questions on SPU? Seattle City Light, I only cut a couple slides because theirs was a huge number of slides of alphabet soup of all the teams that they have standing up ready to go. But I'll show you the couple that, we all know power is king, really. If we don't have power, that's the big one for us. They have a huge service area. And so they have to do a whole lot of prep to make sure that they're ready to respond to wherever, the bomb cyclone touches down or wherever the ice trees are falling. So it's 131 square miles of service area. I put two together. They do a lot of prep. They start working way ahead of time with meetings and preparedness and going through their vehicles, getting them gassed up and ready to go. And during activation, they have an entire separate emergency operations center of their own where they do daily coordination calls with all their energy partners and all their impacted partners. And then the technical calls are within the teams and who does what. And this is the list of the different crews and teams that they put out. They have a thing called Storm Base. That's the picture I just showed you, the Storm Base Emergency Operations Center opening for Seattle City Light. And then you can have everything down to warehouse personnel, and then spotters was something I didn't know they had. They have people actually whose job it is to go out and look for stuff that may not have gotten called in. And then they do have the capacity to bring in civil crews to do some of the non-hazard work, and along with the vegetation management crews actually work all year round. You see the arborists out trimming trees away from the lines and stuff. So that's it on the winter weather briefing. Any questions?
I just had two comments. One of the things I thought was really sweet, they said about the kids, it was yes, we're clearing stuff around schools and we really want schools to be up and running. And I thought, well, yeah, of course, because you want parents to go to work and make money, and you want the capitalist engine to keep running. And yeah, that's a piece of it. But some of these kids don't eat except at school. You do not want them at home.
Yeah.
I just really like that. The other thing was they have a hotline. I think it was SPU has a hotline where if for some reason you can't get home or you can't get to work or whatever, you call this hotline and you go, I need a hotel room and a hot meal and I can stay at work. And it's just like it's part of their battle rhythm. If you need that kind of thing,
For their
they provide
employees.
it. Yeah, for the employees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not for the public.
Yeah, yeah. But they provide that kind of thing just to keep you on the job. They're just really, and like I put in chat, the after action reports, you can see they are learning from this stuff. They just get better every single year.
Mhm.
It's quite impressive.
Yep. So I had two other things that I was going to cover, separate topics, just kind of like Dana from Madison Park sent us, she caught on that there's a House bill going in about unreinforced masonry damage. And so we have had a hard time getting traction in Seattle to get legislation in place that helps encourage or makes property owners update their buildings that are built out of just bricks, the unreinforced masonry that has such a terrible collapsing tendency during a disaster. So there's a House bill proposed right now that is going to, not directly fully fund it, but at least put together a program to make financial incentives available so property owners don't have such a burden to bring their disastrous buildings up to a better code. So, we're not doing political statements, but a lot of you guys are frustrated by the lack of progress on URM conversions. And so the state has become the place where everybody's looking to try and put something in place to help everybody. And my brain has forgotten the other thing I was supposed to talk about. So it's not really directly one of our main missions, but we do radio communications. People do put up antennas so that they can hit repeaters or whatever they need. And it turns out that across America, there is a loophole for homeowner associations to prevent ham radio operators from putting up antennas. And that's frustrated a lot of the ham radio community because they have emergency responder people who live in HOAs and they can't put up their antennas. So Carl Leon is putting together, they're looking for people to send letters of support to legislators to say, you know, please close this loophole so that HOAs can't just outright ban all radio antennas. And so Carl is trying to put together some back history on that, and we'll send that out to you later. So.
Hey, I do want to mention that we're having our November Hubcap meeting early because of Thanksgiving. November 20th is our Hubcap meeting, so a week early. We are discussing the future structure of the network. What we call the thought group has got together. We've met, I don't know, 5 or 6 times now, put together what we think is a pretty strong structure. We want to show it to the hubcaps, kind of get your feel for it, and then talk about the next steps. So that is November 20th, 7 p.m. We'll make sure everybody's got the link, but would love to see a really good turnout at that meeting because it's a pretty interesting change. I didn't know where we were going, and where we ended up is not where I thought we would end up. But I think it's really good. I think it's really going to make a very strong organization and make it much more sustainable than just kind of relying on Cindy and I. So I think it's going to be a really good conversation. So please encourage all your key volunteers to come. I think for this one, it's probably a really good idea to have
I
folks
wish
there.
we could bribe them with pizza for a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Thanks for getting us out early tonight.
All right. Thanks, everybody.